second attempt on podcast number 30.
Yeah, it was a good one yesterday. Or not yesterday, the other day. I wish it was just not yesterday, jeez.
Whatever day it was.
Yeah.
It was all right, but even now, how long are we into this? We started February, March, April, May, June, July, and we're in August, so 6 months. 6 months in, we're still screwing up. I tried to record this a couple of days ago, and it didn't work out. Of course, most of the time it's when I try to use something new. And we should be good now. I think we worked out all the kinks for at least this episode. So next one we'll have to record 3 or 4 times. And
Yeah, we'll have to redo settings again because,
Yeah. I know we've talked about it before, but this is episode 30. But I think we've got to be close to like 90 that we've recorded or tried to record.
Attempted to record.
Yeah, there's some good ones. But anyway, welcome back, guys. Today I think we're going to we tried to have this conversation already a little bit about cash flow management because I don't think that's something that we have
That's what it was.
paid attention to or discussed here on the podcast specifically. And I think it's kind of interesting because, two polar opposite industries. Yeah. So it's it'd be interesting, to kind of see what it is that you do versus what it is that I do to manage cash flow and, some of the mistakes you've made along the way that everybody has to make, but it really hurts in the beginning. So,
Well, I know I've talked about in the beginning going into debt,
mm-hmm.
and that was merely because I didn't understand cash flow.
Yeah, honestly. So what does cash flow mean? What, you have a good definition for that? I don't think I have a good definition for it.
The revolving consistent cash throughout your business.
The availability of actual cash, not credit, not actual capital.
Yes.
It's probably, yeah. So
I'm just trying to keep it the simplest, not trying to
right. Not
go
debt,
net
credit,
net 7 days. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Type it's. If you had to go into your bank right now, do you have any cash to touch?
Exactly. So cash flow is managing the amount of actual capital in your account at any given time.
Yes.
I guess. So.
Yeah, and that's not like, I will 100% say not yet. I'm not a, chartered financial consultant, so I'm not going to give you an exact definition of it. But as a financial professional, I will put a little bit behind that and say it's the ability to manage the rapid and consistent cash flow throughout the daily process.
Yeah. So cash flow refers to the movement of money in and out of your business in terms of income and expenditures. So yeah.
Daily, yeah.
Yeah. So if you don't know how to manage that, right, the money that's coming in versus the money that's going out, and making sure that you have a surplus coming in versus going out, things can get pretty difficult pretty quick, and that's how you end up in $30,000. You were $30K in debt in a couple of months, yeah?
Yeah, it went quick.
Yeah, and also, again, that's bad mentorship and bad leadership within, the systems that they had set up for him. But any business owner can do that pretty quickly and pretty easily.
Yeah,
without
way too easily.
Yeah, without knowing, what to look for and what signs, what to avoid. So,
yeah.
I'll go. Let's talk about that a little bit. So yours, I know we've talked about you going into debt before, but essentially, you were told, hey, you need to spend money on these things, and that's how you make money.
Yeah.
Right. There was no other, there was no other guidance as far as how to properly make the money. It was just, if you spend this money, you will make money.
Yes, and I'm in the as a agency owner now to where like I'm helping out people doing that. I tell people just to dive in. But the difference is they know what they're getting themselves into. All I knew at the time, and then just to go like just to make a little bit of sense, I was trying to do mortgage protection as an insurance agent when I was 2 months deep, and all I knew was final expense. So I knew how to sell a $10,000 policy to an old person.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was going to go try to walk into a home of a $6,000 family, or the house is 600,000, and go, hey, we need to get you a life insurance policy for 600 grand. I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to talk about mortgages.
Right.
Obviously, I had a little bit of financial literacy, but not in the sense of how to actually articulate it to the clientele.
Right.
So I went all in because that's what they said they were doing to make the money, and I knew the only way to make the money is to do the things that they are doing. The only difference is this. One, the people who really shined, they studied underneath somebody, like intensely.
Absolutely.
I was by myself.
Yep.
Didn't have anyone in my area. I still think there's probably like one or two in this area, but at the time I was the only agent in Ocala.
Mm-hmm.
There was no one. So I was going door to door trying to figure out everything myself.
Yep.
Didn't have that type of mentorship. So that's the first thing. Second thing is for individuals who are coming from lower income families, not having a bigger network, not having credit to work with, there wasn't really like that money was what I saved from the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
Like that was what I saved for 5 years to be able to really go into it, and literally, boom, 3-4 months it was taken away because bad business advice.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is most people have capital.
Right.
To be able to try to dig themselves out of the hole to do that. I didn't have that, so it went straight to grind.
Yeah.
But not knowing how to manage the cash flow in the sense of saying, hey, maybe I just try one of those because that might make me last until 10 or 12 months instead of only 3 months if I do all three of them.
Yeah.
I didn't think like that. I just thought, hey, if everyone's doing it, let me just pull trigger. I have the money in the account right now. It's on hand. I can do it.
Yeah.
I didn't think of the longevity effect of, well, what if I don't have it because I just believed, I'm going to be able to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wasn't able. And I sold a few, but it wasn't enough to have the rolling thing because, well, it took 4 weeks to get anything in, so I had to pay 4 weeks worth of stuff, and I'm like, I needed cash flow daily to be able to continue to do the business, and like after a month, I'm like, I have no leads, and I still have to pay this amount of money, and I don't have no money anymore. What am I doing?
Yeah. So, and that's sort of a similar thing, similar mistakes in my field too, where when I got started, I tried to do it by myself, which didn't work, but you put yourself into debt, right? So let's say you spend something small. Let's say you spend $2,500 on a credit card, right? Company credit or a personal credit card because your company's new, you can't get company credit. So you know what I mean? So your personal guarantee on your personal card, but you spend it for your company, right? Like I did. So now in my head, right, this is what I used to do. I'd say, okay, $2,500 is what I have to pay. So I need to make $2,500, right? So I would do it. I'd go out and make that $2,500. But
I love it.
Guess what? I also had guys to pay. I had insurance to pay. I had tools. I had, like gas, fuel, everything else, all the other overhead expenses that when you put yourself into debt at the beginning, you just think, oh, that's the only bill I've got.
Yes.
And you forget.
Thank you. That it is such a valid point to where if you do have that you're like, hey, I need 15 grand. You don't understand, first off, if you're an entrepreneur and you're 1099 truly or just straight you're billing people and just taking income, like processing it. 15 grand you really need like 18, 19 with taxes.
Oh, yeah, no.
So, and then you have to think, well, I still need overhead, so I really need like 25. Well, with all the taxes, I really need to make 35 to be on the safe side. You're like, whoa, wait, it showed 15, but I really need 35 to really do what I need. It's like you really need to look at the end of the day your expense report, your and the cash flow coming in, and match those two up and go, okay, let me actually think about this for a second. What is the best move forward without digging myself into a hole? Most people only look at one of those two reports. They don't look at both.
Yeah, well, so there's more for that, right? So, again, when you're first getting started, you don't know all of that.
No.
So you're simple-minded like I was. I thought, okay, I've got I've got my credit card bill every month. I've got my guys to pay every week. I've got insurance on the truck, insurance on the trailer, fuel, and then I went, okay, so I pull the expense reports, right, and I say, okay, there's my break-even point. Now I want a little bit more than that, right? Just to be safe. I wasn't charging enough to make that a little bit more, but that's a different story. But that's what okay, so I'm like, okay, a little bit more, and then we're in the green. I still didn't calculate for taxes because when you're first getting started, that's the last thing you're thinking about is that you owe the IRS on whatever you make. So I didn't calculate for taxes. I also was not calculating to pay myself at all. I always just calculated to pay the guys.
I still struggle with that today to where I'm like, okay, hey, the business needs to make this much because that's the operating expenses, and
Yeah.
that's good. And I'm like, no, it's not.
No, it's not.
I can make more with it.
Yeah, that's a huge thing, a huge mindset shift that has to happen for most business owners, which is your break-even point is not what you think it is, and it's hard.
And it shouldn't. Your break even should not be the goal either.
No.
For everything you got in you, do not make the break even the goal.
No, honestly, your break-even point should be your profit only, like calculating your profit. So calculating all your overhead expenses, all of your taxes, all of your
pay,
savings, everything else, and then plus whatever percentage of profit you're trying to make for the company, not for yourself, for the company.
Because it's two different things.
Yep. So after all of that is figured out, that should be your break-even point. You should not go below that amount of money coming in at any given time.
I like that. Because normally what I tell people is don't shoot for break-even in the sense of right where
bills are paid.
Because there's so much more, and obviously I'm just being very generic when I say bills.
Mm-hmm.
But there's so much more to go into and dive into. What are you actually accounting your bills for? Like, what are you putting in there? And are you just saying your business expenses in the sense of the goods you buy, or are you throwing in payroll? Are you throwing in taxes? Are you throwing in the bonuses at the end of the year? Are you doing everything in each job to be able to put it in to where you're like, okay, well, this is the reason why I'm up is because it's accounted for in every single job, and I'm not just hoping that I have one big job and I take that 20,000 profit and give that out for bonuses.
It's funny that you say job because that kind of implies my line of work, right?
Well, no, I'm saying job too because for me in my industry, because it's not as an independent broker, it's different. And I'll say this, it's different as an independent broker just selling as a producer than it is an agency owner. As an agency owner, I think completely different than how I had to as a producer. As a producer, I just had to think of as soon as I got a deal in that was sold issue and I got paid out on it, I split that money into certain funds to make sure, hey, if I got a chargeback, I'm not getting a chargeback. Or if it does happen, over the averages of 10, 20, 30 policies, I have enough there to cover any chargeback that happens, and it gets paid out immediately. And then I have a tax fund. And then I have the profit fund it just stays inside the operations fund.
Yeah.
And I'm able to be able to go, okay, well, look, it comes out of my payroll for my the operations fund. Hey, my payroll for my assistant, the payroll for the appointment setter, the payroll for the VA, like it all comes out of right there.
So let's take a quick stop there because this is good. In a perfect world, that's how it works. Okay. you split up your money and everything's there and where it's supposed to be.
Mhm.
So now what happens when you've got that money split up, but you stop selling? Something's going on. You're not selling enough. You're not to cover all of that, right? You start pulling from from the tax account just to pay your payroll, right? You start pulling from your chargeback account to pay your bills for your house because you got to pay yourself. You know what I mean? That's how it used to be for me.
So I have always put the business first,
Mm-hmm.
and I can fully say I have not pulled from the business's money. I had to go do Uber and go do the side stuff, and that's where my personal money always came from.
Right.
I never took from the business because I never had the money in the business to take from.
Exactly. But like that's perfect. That's exactly what I'm saying. But still, I bet you would take from one portion of the company to pay the other portion, like I have done, right?
So for my tax account, I can only withdraw from it twice a year.
So that's good. That's a smart way to do that. I like that.
So
That's a good tip.
I set it up that way for the sense that I can only touch it during tax season, or if I extend my taxes,
Mm-hmm.
I can pay it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the whole sense of it.
That's good.
So I just don't want to touch that fund and then if I pay the taxes and at the end of the year after I pay and there's still money there, I can do one withdrawal and take out the money.
Mm-hmm.
So I have literally two decisions to make, and that's it. There's no, can I take out some of it to do marketing here?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
There is zero decision on that.
For the tax account.
Exactly. Because I'm not paying I'm not getting hit by Uncle Sam.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. That's not somewhere you want to be. But like, here's a good example for me in the past, right? When I first started my first company, I would finish a job or what have you, right? And I'd get paid out on it. And then I'd finish paying those bills like I had, for materials or whatever. But then payroll's due. I'm like, okay, well, that money was supposed to cover payroll, but I just paid all the bills with it. So I'd have to take a deposit from the next job. And instead of getting their materials like that money was used for, now it's going towards payroll, right?
Then you're just in a loop where you're just
exactly.
trying to catch up.
Just constantly. It's called. There's a one of the books that I read explains it, and it's a concept everybody knows, which is robbing Peter to pay Paul, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're taking money from that person's job to finish paying for expenses on this job because you didn't charge enough. And that is a cycle that you get into when you first start your company, start a business in any industry that is very hard to get out of if you're not, paying attention to your cash flow.
And that's,
like close attention.
one of my biggest thing, and I don't know, I don't really care how people think about it. First thing I do when I sit down at my desk, bank account's open
Mm-hmm.
for the business. It's the first thing I look at in the morning is business bank account.
Yeah.
Because I have a goal of where I want that to be that day. Like I've already spoken with you. It's $250 a day out of my own products. If I sell any of the insurance stuff, hey, great. But I know where my goal needs to be every single day. So if I don't see that deposit in there, I know I have to do double the work that day.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the way that I do it, so it stays in front of me. And do I check the cash flow report? I do my reports every Friday.
Yeah.
To do everything, just to keep it simple right now. When I'm selling business when I was selling insurance policies every single day, multiple policies, I was staring at it Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Mm-hmm.
I was keeping it in front of my face because I never wanted to go negative because my expenditures was like 30, 40 grand a month at that point. I did not want to, I wanted to make sure I was on point and I wasn't going to go backwards.
Yeah. And see, that's good to get a system in place to monitor those things. And then, so like your 250 is your break even, right? That's your, if I do less than that, you know what I mean?
So that was the 250 is break even for month one, but because it's all reoccurring, if I keep with 250, it just doubles each month.
It compounds, right?
Yeah.
Right. But I'm just saying, like, you have that number, you know what you got to make a day.
Oh, yeah.
And for, that works for you per day, right? I can't do per day for me.
And the thing is, I sell digital products. Like it's
But it's
different.
I mean, it's very easy if you multiply that by 5. You know what I mean? And you end up with what, 1250
Mhm.
a week, right? I can do weekly for my company. You know what I mean? So that stuff like that is how you.
Yeah,
It
and then
doesn't
it
have to be
translate,
per day.
yeah.
It doesn't have to be per week. It doesn't have to be per month. It can be whatever works best for your company. But you need to know what that number is, and you can break it down to hourly. You know what I mean? You can go down as far as you want to, but you should have an idea of what you need to make in order to get all of those things taken care of. So here's a good example. I just did all of my invoicing, billing, job costing, blah 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 yesterday. I was late. We were playing video games last night, and I was telling you, midnight, and I'm over here doing inputting employees' hours and stuff. You know what I mean? So I was getting all that figured out. I got all my invoicing figured out and done and sent. This is a perfect example of why being a contractor sucks, right? I have $82,000 in receivables coming in, right? That's my invoices that I sent out yesterday was $82,000. Of that, 52 go directly back out to subs, materials, whatever bills are due there, right? And then with that 30 that's left, I have to now set aside for taxes, set aside for employees, set aside for my pay, set aside for saving. All of those things come out of that 30,000. So by the time we're done with it, my operations account, right, that is used to fuel the business, there's only 10,000 going into that account, right? So that's what sucks about being a contractor and why it was so hard for me at the beginning, because I'd see, oh my gosh, I'm getting a $27,000 check for this job, which was the biggest job I ever sold back in the day, right? That was massive. Anything over $5,000 was like the best of the best. So I get a check, I get a 50% deposit on that, and I'm like, holy crap, dude, I got freaking 14.
This is the most money I've ever had.
Yeah, I almost got $14,000, right? I'm
Mhm.
like, yes. And then you start paying the bills, and you start doing this and
And you're
that.
like, I don't have money.
And when you're not charging enough on top of that, you realize, Jesus Christ. Like, I'll never forget, I finished that job. It's $27,000. I should have charged like 50, but I broke even at 27, and that was, again, not paying myself, not paying taxes. That was paying the bills, paying the guys. So you learn pretty quick that that's not going to work. So what do I do now, or what do you do now? I think you talked a little bit about how you do that, but you have, I don't want to say less overhead. Yours is just more predictable than what I think mine is. You know what I mean? Well,
No. Mine. So depending on what business you're looking at. So if we look at the soft, and I'm gonna wrap it up this way. I'm gonna take away the insurance agency, because that is still, as an agency owner, pretty predictable, because I know what I'm going to be spending on leads. Every single day, the averages are going to be the averages and how many leads we get, but I know what I'm going to spend on the budget. I know how much I'm going to spend on my CRM, and I know how much I'm going to spend on my dialer.
Yep.
Those are my predictable costs.
Yep.
I know what those are and what my total is each month, no matter what. And then if I add in 15 agents, my cost goes up this much, and I know that by that. So that's pretty set.
Mm-hmm.
For the coaching software marketing side, everything is it's me.
Yeah.
So the overhead is me.
Yeah.
There's no overhead.
Right.
So profit's profit. That's why I love the online business.
Yeah.
Is because everything that I make, there is no paying out. I think if you want to look at all the businesses all together, I'm paying maybe $2,600 in subscription software each month.
Yeah.
That's my overhead.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Very tiny.
For me, my overhead is.
I mean not the employee, but I mean that's an extra $3,000 a month.
Yeah. So mine's pretty. The only thing that fluctuates for me is fuel. You know what I mean? And I just,
You can't dictate that.
Yeah, I just, I take a 6-month average and then I add a couple $100 to that. You know what I mean? And then if that goes up, then I do it again. But that's the only thing that really fluctuates for my overhead because I have salaried employees, I have myself, and then I have all of my monthly expenses that I know about. And then, there's all of my employees that are hourly. Well, they're working on specific jobs. That's getting billed to a specific job. So that's not overhead, which is something that a lot of you contractors should pay attention to.
Yes.
It's cost of goods sold, yeah.
It is only overhead if they're working on an internal project for the company.
Yeah.
Or you.
Yeah.
Literally.
That's it.
Other than that,
it should be billed directly to that
100%. It should not be coming out of your pocket.
Absolutely. So, what I do now to help me avoid having the issue of before where contractors and I don't know who or why it's been normalized and whatever, but essentially you as a contractor you take a little bit of a deposit up front, right? Just to hold spot on the calendar, whatever, and then you take a draw at this percentage and this percentage, right? So if it's a big job, so say I'm doing $100,000 job, my first draw might be $10,000, and then the next one's not due until whatever portion. So I might have to pay for all the concrete to be down and the walls to be up, and then what happens if at that point the homeowner says, "Yeah, I don't actually want to pay you." So now I'm out. All I have so far is 10, but I've already spent 30, right? So now I'm down 20. That's the normal way for contractors to do that. And when there's a bank involved, that is still the way they make you do it. Of course, the bank's kind of secured and guaranteed and backed up by, so it's a little safer. But I still prefer not to work with banks simply because if I have multiple projects going on and something outside of my abilities stops a project, and I was supposed to get money from it, right? Like, for instance, we had a project that needed to be surveyed before the bank would give us the money. And it was a big draw. It was like $70,000. And they wouldn't, they said, no, we have to have the survey done first. And I said, okay, we'll get the survey out there. Surveyor's 6 months out before that they can get out there, right? So I spent all this money to get this far on the project, and now I'm waiting for 6 months for $70,000, right? So I don't do that anymore.
Yeah, don't blame
I
you.
prefer not to work with banks. You have to really, it better be worth it for me to work with a bank is all I'm saying. What I do now is I still take a deposit up front, right? That'll cover whatever administrative fees are involved with the project. If I got to do permitting, plans, any sort of drawings, anything like that, I take that deposit up front. I get that part taken care of. And of course that deposit pays for my time, my company's expenses, overhead, all that stuff. It's not just the cost directed. So it's not just for the engineering, which is, let's say it's $500 and the permit's $1,000. I don't charge them $1,500 deposit. I'm charging them $5-6 grand because I need to pay my company's overhead, my time, my hours, blah, 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 blah. Right. So I take that deposit and then, and once a project gets started, I bill out every 2 weeks. And you are paying me every 2 weeks. I'm not that way. I'm not, having to steal from another job to put out $70,000 on your job and wait until we get to that point. Because what if you change your mind on something and those materials don't come in, or they did come in but you don't like them, so we got to redo them, which had just happened to me. Now what? You know what I mean? Now I'm stuck because technically we're not far enough for that draw.
Yep.
So I don't do that. I bill out every 2 weeks, and I pay my subcontractors every 2 weeks. So
when you say you bill out the project, do you just bill out the percentage that you're done, or are you just billing out the man hours?
So depending on the style of project, right? So if it's new construction and it's one of my specific house plans that I have priced out, then yeah, it'll be percentage of completion. So, if we got the walls up or whatever percentage, if we're framing, whatever percentage of the entire project is done is what I'll bill out on.
Okay, that makes sense.
Most of what I do, though, is cost plus. So, which is another thing that helps you prevent having cash flow issues.
Yes.
If you tell the homeowner right up front, like any of my remodels, additions, renovations, anything like that I'm doing is cost plus only. I don't even try to give you a bid because again, if I miss something, I eat it, you don't. So I don't do that. The only way to not miss something is to charge you way too much. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And then at that point, you just come across as.
And then they say no. And so I just everybody that I meet that wants to do a renovation, I say it's cost plus. I bill out every 2 weeks. So at that point, QuickBooks is pretty great. Whenever I have an hour, my employee's hours to put in, or a receipt comes in, or whatever, I just mark their name, the project, and click billable. And then when I go to invoice, it says, "Do you want to attach these?" And I just click all of them, and then boom, they're all there. And then at the bottom of all that, I just put my percentage on the bottom because that's my plus, right? So whatever my percentage is going to be on that job, which for you contractors, it should be, quite a bit higher than you probably think. So if you're only marking up, 25%, you're making less than, 20% margin, which if you don't know the difference between that, I guess let me know and I'll do another thing on that. But anyway, it should be pretty high. So whatever my markup is, will go at the bottom of that, and then they'll pay that invoice. That's how I operate. It keeps me able to sleep, because I'm not worried, oh my gosh, is there money coming in this week? Did I get far enough on this job to get paid? I know I'm getting paid every 2 weeks, regardless. So that's what I recommend contractors do. Get away from the taking deposits and then taking
net
draw.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I know we talked about that one. But anyway, yeah. So I pay my bills every 2 weeks, and I get paid every 2 weeks to keep things simple. And the other thing that does is it gets the subcontractors, acclimated, right? So they're not coming after me the day they finish a job saying, "Hey."
Well, it's funny. It's all it is setting the expectation from the beginning.
Yeah.
Which most people just don't do. It's just go.
Yeah.
And figure it out.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah, and the whole cost plus thing, a lot of people are like, "Oh, how do you even do that?" Because the homeowner wants a number, right? This is a perfect example. I'll do one quick example, and then we'll get out of here.
Okay, no. I love it because we have to do one on just sales because
that's the next one for sure.
You and I have both, and this is the nice thing that we can both say because of our industries. We both have $1 million worth of sales.
Oh yeah,
underneath our belt.
Yeah,
and it's interesting that a lot of the psychology behind it works in both industries.
Yeah. So, real quick, I have a acquaintance, I'll say, right, that wanted me to provide an estimate for some sort of renovation project. And I said, I tell you what I will do is I'll say, what you're looking for should be somewhere around 30, 40,000, but I don't know for sure, right? So the way that I do it is I do cost plus. Otherwise, I'm going to charge you 80 to make sure that I don't lose my ass, right? And it's I say acquaintance, it's somebody that I talk to quite often, right? And they said, "Well, that's ridiculous. Why would you charge 80,000?" And I said, "Well, I don't want to. I just told you I do cost plus, and it'll come out less than that, I'm sure, but there's a chance it might not, and I'm not going to be the one stuck with that, stuck losing money." So that individual ended up going with somebody who quoted them $100,000 just because they gave him a final number, and I didn't. They probably could have saved $40,000, $50,000 if they went with me. But I didn't want to do it anyway because I didn't want to deal with that. But that's the thing is some homeowners, they just want a final number, and they don't understand, that the contractors that are giving you that final number, if it's really low, run away. If it's that high, it's because they're smart and they know what they're doing. So when you get a bid on a remodel for $400,000 when everybody else was coming in around $100,000, that's the guy you want to hire, honestly, because he's going to be the one that does it right because he knows not to be stupid enough to miss something. So he found out that it's going to cost him, $80,000. So then he put his markup on it and it came out to $150,000. And then he said, "Yeah, plus you're going to change your mind 400 times. So I'm going to add $100,000. So that's how that works. And that's one of the psychological things that doesn't make sense to me. If I'm, if I'm telling you, well, most people, they want a number because they want to know what their budget is. But I don't like working for those people anyway. I like the people that want what they want and just want it done.
So I agree with you. In my industry, those are the people I work with. Like, I just helped out a gentleman put in 47,000 into a policy a year. That individual, that conversation, the way that he moves, just the way that he communicates with you, a lot different from someone who just wants the bare minimum and put 150 a month into one of those policies. It's like, I can help you out, but do I want to?
Yeah. Because then you get, like, for me, if I get into that project, it's hey, we're going over budget. So yeah, but you changed your mind on 17 things, so of course we're going over budget. Like, you can't, like, you picked a tile. I gave you a tile allowance for $3 a square foot. The one tile for that bathroom is $7. Of course we're going over budget. You can't.
Yeah, you blew it in 3 seconds. It's funny because in my industry, what we get all the time is individuals going, "Oh, I want $1 million at retirement." Dude, you're 57 and you're putting $50 into this policy. You may have $500 at retirement. Come on now.
Yep.
Let's be realistic with yourself. This is not retirement, let alone this should be used as a supplement retirement. This is like you go downtown and you want to get a soda pop type fund. Like this isn't.
Yeah.
Be real, man. And you always lose them because they're like, "Nah, I've seen that you can do this. I've talked to 5 other people. They said I can do this." It's like, why didn't you go with one of those 5?
That's it. That's the.
Like, I can help you, but I need you to realize your logic is literally flawed.
Yeah.
But hey, I'm here.
Yeah.
But don't really use me. Go.
Yeah, that's the worst thing is when they're like, "Oh, well, I already talked to this person. They said it was supposed to be around this much." Fantastic. Go call that guy. Have him do it.
Yeah, then why did you bother picking up the phone call and calling me, or why did you pick up my phone call?
Yeah, and to go back to cash flow, like back in the in the early days,
I would have chased that down because I needed it.
I would have said, "Shit, I'll match it," and lose my ass.
You know how many times I used to, because I'm very technical. So I can get on the phone and decipher a policy and mess people up. So we're like, well, if you're spending $100, the person made 100, and all of a sudden, I'm like, well, I can undercut them and I'll make $62.
Yeah. Nope. Back in the day, back then when you're first getting started, those are the things that happen. And
well, yeah. And the thing is, those are the people who are like, well, if I can undercut him. So if someone can undercut me, they're just going to go with that. And then, boom, I undercut that guy. And then 2 months later, I get a chargeback. I'm like, what just happened? What is this guy doing?
Yeah.
Well, it's because he wanted to pay $100 and 62, and now he's paying $61, and he's saving $12 a year, and that's what got him to change. I'm like, nah.
Yeah.
Better clientele.
Absolutely. That's I know we've talked about that too. Getting away from those time wasters, but I think next time we'll talk about sales specifically and some of the horror stories we've had and what we've learned from them, because I've got a lot of fun ones. But anyway, anything else you want to add today?
No. It recorded, so we're good.
We actually recorded. Last thing I'll just touch on again is shifting your mind from the break-even point and what did we say earlier? Shifting your mind from paying just your bills, not paying yourself and everything else. It's really hard.
Yeah, you have to realize and really sit down
that you made a company was to pay yourself.
Yes, and you have to incorporate everything into the bills of the company. What I mean by that is literally your pay, any of the overhead to employees, but any of the money that you want the business to make, savings for it. So you need 15% profit for you to live, 15% profit for the business to grow, and 5% for business to save for hard times. You need to account for that in your break even 100%.
Absolutely. Awesome. All right, sounds good. Well, thanks you guys for sticking around for 30 episodes.
Well, yeah, it's 30. Yeah,
we talked about this last time, but we've gone up from 6 views on YouTube to 17 views per episode. So,
Oh, is it 17?
yeah, between 14 and 17. Last couple have gotten. So
Wow.
yeah,
I wonder what would happen if we actually
started putting out more, shorts and promoting something instead of just posting this to the listeners.
Well, the nice thing is now that we promoted, they actually have a nice library to go to. It's not just 1 or 2. Like, we promoted the first 3, 4, 5, and then we kind of stopped, and it's like, what the heck?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, if we were to do something, it might go somewhere. But for now, we're getting some extra views, so I appreciate
We're
you.
getting the organic. Well, once we get to like 100 organic views each video,
We'll have to take you 6 out on a cruise.
yeah, we got to figure out the
OG.
the OG 6,
Yeah.
and be able to bring them on. But
Yeah, that's funny. Anyway,
yeah,
thanks, guys. 30 episodes. We're not stopping. So either stop listening or tell everyone you know.
or enjoy. So
Yeah. All right. See you guys.